What's up, movie lovers? How are you guys doing? It's your girl Rossie, and John DiGregorio has joined me this evening to review episodes or 6 and 7 for Let the Right One In. So let's get into this. Just a second, guys. You know how I am. Okay, guys, let's do it. What's up, John?
Nothing much. How you doing, Rossie?
I'm doing really good. I'm doing really good. We're having a storm going on here in Northern California. So if the lights go out, guys, my apologies.
Well, I know what you're going through because we just got a storm ourselves, so I definitely understand.
Okay, great. Well, guys, so we're here to review episode 6 and 7 of Let the Right One In, and and I have totally enjoyed this show thus far. I do want to start because John's gonna recap some of last week's episode, and then we'll get into this. But I do want to give a shout out to the actors, okay, the cast members. So I'll start with Madison Taylor Baez. She plays Ellie. We have Damian Bishir, who plays Mark, who also is a producer. We have Anika Noni Rose, who plays Naomi. We have Ian Foreman, who plays our lovable Isaiah. We have Kevin Carroll, who plays Zeke. Grace Gummer, who plays Claire. Jacob Buster, who plays Peter. And of course, Nick Stahl, and he was in everything when I grew up, who played Matthew. Okay, so I just wanted to give a shout out to those actors who are doing a great job. John?
So I have to say, I really enjoyed watching this. As a matter of fact, I ended up watching this right from episode 4 all the way up to episode 6, but it wasn't to
Okay.
get caught up or anything. I just wanted to rewatch it and binge it from that point on because of the fact I think that binging those episodes together actually fits in because there's a lot happening within the fourth episode.
Right.
And especially about how everything's connecting together, especially when you're wondering, okay, the connective tissue with, for instance, with Peter and Claire,
Yeah.
you're wondering how is this even making sense or anything like that because of the fact that you're not sure where it's going to go. And then when you find out within the 7th episode that the reason why Claire's why Ellie's the way she is because of Peter.
Right.
And then the most ironic thing is this, okay? So this is what I'm thinking.
Okay.
And of course, I called it with the whole entire there's a drug out on the street.
Absolutely, you did. Yes.
But okay, so think of it like this. You have, and this is what I'm thinking. I'm sorry, I'm just going a minute here. But okay, so what I'm thinking is this, okay? As I'm seeing this being processed, as I'm watching this as a viewer and as a fan of the show, I'm watching this and I'm thinking to myself, okay, so now you killed the husband who is actually the investigator, the detective, and then you also have the little boy, Naomi,
Right.
and then Xavier, right? For the Isaiah. So now you have, now to get this though. So you think of it like this. So because of the father being dead,
Right.
that blood is now in Ellie's system.
Absolutely. Yes.
So then think of it like this though too. You also have that situation, but you're also dealing with the fact that I wouldn't have been in this situation if it wasn't for the stuff with Peter, if it wasn't for the stuff with Claire and the selling the drugs and stuff like that. And now this is the ironic part that comes into it, right? They're the ones who's coming up with the cure. Just as Ellie taking the blood from Isaiah's father.
Right.
And it has that kind of connect. I'm going a little too deep, I think. But there's a point that I'm trying to make. But basically is this. You have an issue here where you have Peter who winds up taking the life of Ellie, and she wouldn't be the way that she was. And now the only way to save her is through Peter, who actually winds up being the very person that turned you into a vampire. And then, of course, the father is gone from Isaiah. Right. So therefore, in turn, you're having this investigation going on. And then to be under that kind of thing where now it's like, oh, I actually ate your father's blood, and
Right,
oops, how does this actually conflict with Isaiah's and Ellie's relationship later
right,
on? That's the
right.
point I was trying to make. So
Okay, I
you
get
have
that.
so that's the two things that's going on over here that I
Right,
really found really fascinating,
right.
especially when we're going to get into it, but go on ahead.
Yeah. Well, no, I agree with you, and because we connected, like you said, Peter to Ellie when the camera early on, and I think it was like episode 3, where you see the school picture and you see Ellie in that school picture and Peter in that school picture. So that's when we got our first connection. Okay, so they were together. And then in the episodes that we are watching now, in episode 6, they really show how Ellie and Peter met. Besides being in a school picture together, they were stargazers. Remember, Ellie wants to be what is it, an astronaut? Okay, and so
Astronomy, study of
uh,
astronomy and stuff like that.
astronomy. There you go. And so she's really big into that. So uh, we get to go back in the past and see her life. Okay, so we start off with and I think that's episode 7, so we'll get into 6 first before we even get there. First of all, we're celebrating Isaiah's birthday. Okay, so this episode is great, it's fun. We learn a little bit more about Ellie and her age in this one. Remember, last week we realized that Isaiah found out that his dad, the reason why he's not returning calls is because he's dead or possibly dead. um, we also find out that Ellie tells Isaiah that who she really is, because he's just, the night that they snuck out to Ellie's old house, we find out that it is her old house. She's Isaiah's kind of been paying attention to, wait, this girl's out here, no jacket. It's just things aren't adding up. So we find out that she tells him, "This is who I am," and it literally scares the shit out of Isaiah. I mean, the poor kid was having nightmares,
Mhm.
because a vampire. You know what I mean? She's a monster as far as he's concerned. He's a 12-year-old boy. So we got through all that. So now they're good, and he hasn't told his mom. And remember, last episode he came very close to kind of sharing it with the mom, but he wanted to talk to his dad first about it. So Naomi's thinking that it's just him liking Ellie, and not realizing that Ellie actually told uh, Isaiah that she is a vampire. So we're celebrating his birthday. What did you think about the whole birthday cake? And well, before even that, I mean, when Mark's over at Naomi's house and the part where he's sneaking into her computer,
Mhm.
did you not freak out when she
I
walked out of
did.
that room? What did you think?
Okay, number one, I was cooking as I was watching this, and so I'm stopping what I'm doing, right? So I'm like,
Yeah.
this is what I said. I said, "You are such an idiot. You're
Yes.
an idiot. I said, I hope you have a good game plan because it's about to go on ahead. I hope you like
Right.
black stripes because that's where you're going, buddy."
Right. Right.
And then I'm like, this reminds me of so much of Dexter, though. It has like a Dexter kind of
Yes.
vibe to
Yes.
it
Yes.
because he's basically a serial killer. If you think about it, if you look underneath
Yes.
the context of it, he's a serial killer, but he's also trying to help his daughter
Right.
and trying to figure out a way to actually keep his daughter living. So it's
Right.
about the bond and the fatherly love. So that's
Absolutely.
different from the Dexter vibe.
Right.
But he's being stupid. He
Yes.
knows that there's an investigation going on. And
Right.
he's asking too many questions as is, and
Yes.
here you are going on a laptop, and then of course the detective's like, "Well, hold on one second, let me go in the back real quick. Can you keep an eye on the dinner?" "Oh yeah, not a problem. Not a problem."
Right.
Goes on ahead, opens up the laptop, sees the little coin that the father was actually sober on. And I'm
Right.
thinking to myself, did he even touch that? And then when you do the recap of it, I'm like, oh, this is bad. This is
Right.
not your. But it also goes under the context of two. Maybe it might actually lead back over to the person that gave it to him in the AA meetings. So it
Right.
could have that possibility too.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, and remember, guys, because I mean, I freaked out too, and I'm sure you guys freaked out as well as John and I freaked out when she comes out of the room. It's like I just don't get caught. Like, you're being stupid. Get out of her computer. What if she finds out? Is this the scene where she's going to find out and then, it all goes haywire? But, he's smooth enough to where when she comes out, of course, he set the table and said, hey, your laptop's over there, babe.
Right.
Everything's good, right? And then we find out that it's Isaiah's birthday. She gives him the cake. And this birthday was just every 12-year-old's dream. You have to admit that cake was freaking awesome. What he
The
decided
cake,
to do.
that cake was looked like a $500 cake that you
Right?
would actually get at Gordon Ramsay's restaurant from Hell's
Absolutely.
Kitchen.
Absolutely. The
And I'm
magic of it
like,
all.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the thing that I liked about it was how special it was. It was like for a moment, Ellie actually feels like a human rather than a
Yes.
vampire. And she
Yes.
feels the most safest with Isaiah, with her
Yes.
secret. And I
Yes.
liked how the Godfather actually asked her this. He goes, wait, you told him?
Right. Last week,
And,
guys.
and, he pauses for a minute.
Yeah.
But he's like, and you can definitely tell that he's not going to
Oh,
tell the father
right.
because he'll freak out and pack his bags.
Absolutely. And
And
he knows that he knows that she's lonely, and he knows when she talked to him, to Zeke, about her feelings for Isaiah on that couch when she apologized to him for not being mindful of him giving her blood when things were really bad, okay? Because Zeke did a lot for this family. But anyways, yeah, I didn't feel like he was going to tell Mark, because like you said, they'll get up and run again, because I mean, that is a detective that lives next door, and I can't wait to find out how that all goes down. But I like the fact that also when um, Ellie is just really excited about Zeke's birthday, or I'm sorry, Isaiah's birthday, guys, and she wants everything to just to go as planned, because she remembers when she had her birthday, she had sleepovers and all that. The conversation that Mark had with Ellie when he asked Ellie, so you really do like Isaiah? And she's like, I do. And he tells her, you do understand that it's absolutely inappropriate of, having a relationship, because we find out later how old Ellie is about, how old she is. So when he says that, you realize why he said that. Not only because of the infection that she has being a vampire, but just the age alone. And she understands that because she's stuck in a 12-year-old's body, and so but she was really excited at the fact that the dad was going to do something for Isaiah for his birthday. But also, remember, she's kind of bothered that she found out that her dad took that information from Naomi's computer. And remember, Ellie's now on board. Like, you want me to share things with you? This is what I have to do, because regardless of how you feel about them, we still have to keep you safe. No one's going to be okay with her situation and what he has to do for her. So, and at this point, guys, remember, Isaiah doesn't know, Ellie doesn't even know that, she consumed Isaiah's dad, whose name was Frank's blood. She doesn't know that. So she's just being let into um, being allowed to know what's going on, as far as, the laptop with the information that he took. Because remember last week, her, Zeke, and the dad went out to that warehouse to look for
right. And he's
those
freaking
people. So
out.
yeah,
Now, let me talk about that real quick and we'll jump it back over to this other thing if that's
absolutely,
okay.
totally,
Now, okay, so you actually get this conversation between Peter and Claire where it's like, well, you're going to have no choice but to put this drug out on the streets. Either that or we lose our house.
right,
So I'm like, okay, I would take that deal because you don't want to lose your house. And I'm
right,
like, girl, you got to take it.
right,
Then you realize, wait a second, when you see the warehouse and you're looking at a couple of years earlier,
yeah,
you're realizing what Ellie's father saw
right. 2 months before.
it,
That was 2 months
2 months
before that.
before, and realizing it's Claire and it's Peter and all that, the family.
Right,
And
Matthew.
you're
Yeah,
realizing, oh, this is interesting.
right,
She's the one who has the cure, and she says there's these guys with machine guns and things
right,
like that with AK-47s, for
right,
example. And when it's empty, and then you realize whenever you see that scene with Claire and her other brother,
Right.
Realize, oh, this were the people that he was talking about. But at
Right.
the back of my mind is like, is this or isn't it the people that they're talking about? In the back of my head. But
Right.
then when you have the realization, it's like, oh, okay. So now we have some cohesiveness with this. So
Yes.
that's something I really do appreciate with
Right.
that part. But
Right, because they
going
had full
back,
labs.
right,
Didn't you find it, like, awesome when they showed the inside of that compound, and, that down in the industrial district? I mean, they had labs. And remember, a lot of these people that are there to help Matthew out are fellow soldiers of Matthew that volunteered to come and help him out because, before Claire came into the picture, the dad had those drugs out on the street. And like John said, guys, in order to keep what she has going and keep the lab at her mansion, she has to get with it. And also, did you realize the how Claire just kind of her look changed? Jay Jones and I talked about that last week, how she was very plain kind of, and all of a sudden her clothes gets darker as she gets more involved with having
right,
to put the drugs out on the street, basically
right. Her
do what
style
her
winds
dad
up.
did.
Basically, her clothing style changes because of the
Yes.
fact, yeah, now she's making some money,
Right.
and you're being loud now, but
Right.
you're also kind of being plain, but also being someone else that you don't never intended to be.
Absolutely.
Because remember, she tells her brother, "Look, I did not want to go down this road. This is not the road
Right.
that I want to go on. I never wanted it to be in the wrong hands. I was wanting
Right.
to do a cure-all kind of situation. I didn't want this out on the street because we don't
Right.
even know what this is actually going to do
Right.
somebody. Because you
Right.
see that whole entire scene where they're trying it out on the ape and stuff like
Yes.
that too. And she's like, "Well, I no longer want to do that. Now I want to do it on a human." And then
Yeah.
it goes into the point where now you're kidnapping somebody
Right.
to help the cause, and then you also play this kind of narrative, right, where it's like, oh, she's this is actually kind of dark for her character,
It
and I'm
is.
like, how could you do that to somebody? And then I'm like, wait a second, the father of Ellie is doing the same thing that she's doing.
Absolutely.
So I'm like, so basically, I'm being hypocritical towards how she's doing things.
Right.
And it's okay for him to do it because of the fact that it's his daughter, and she's
Right.
doing it. Everybody's in there with the right reasons,
Absolutely. Everybody's trying to
with right
help somebody out.
intentions,
Absolutely. Yes.
but it's the wrong way of actually handling the
Right.
situation
Right.
at that
Because
time. Right,
and Peter, what Peter's going through is, he looks normal again, like Jay Jones and I said last week, he's kind of feeling himself. But one thing that I did notice, and also John, is that remember, Peter made a statement about the fact that what Claire did is Claire is getting closer and closer. I mean, look at what happened to his skin. That worked, okay? We found out that on the ape, she's able to what allow you continue the process of growing, basically. Okay,
that,
so go ahead.
but also too brain surgery to the point where you get rid of the de-aging factor,
Absolutely right.
where you now don't, and so therefore you're living forever is not going to even be an issue anymore.
Right.
It's just that you're going to
Absolutely.
be old for and everything too. So you
Right.
have that aspect into it.
And Peter
So and
doesn't
then
like that. Peter
no,
Peter does not like that aspect because he likes the fact of being young. His issue was he was burned all over his body. Then when he's coming back to himself, he's feeling good about himself. He's always in a mirror, and he doesn't like the fact that Claire has cracked that she
right,
has figured that out because he knows now he has to age. So I'm wondering what's that going to do to him, like if he gets out, is he, you know what I mean, like I'm concerned about his the way he feels about it. It's like he's not appreciating what Claire's doing because he's upset that she's solving that as she snaps at him and lets him know, I'm sick of you basically bitching all the time. I've given up what I do for a living, which is help people, to come here and help you because remember, they're tight. They're really tight. She loves him, but he has gotten a little arrogant, and saying little things. And that's where Matthew comes in to kind of bring him back down and let him know, look what your sister's doing for you. So I'm just wondering how Peter's
right,
going to react once he gets loose, if he does get loose.
right. Well, let's talk about that for a minute here too.
Okay.
Like with the scene with Matthew talking to Peter, he's like, "Look, you're 15 years old. You're allowed to be a ball bag if you want to be a ball
Right.
bag."
Right.
but you're being rude to your sister for a reason here. Hey, Frenchie, how are
Right.
you? But yeah,
Hi,
you're,
hi,
but
Jojo.
you see, I feel like this, okay? So he's like, look, you're 15 years old, you're being a ball bag for a reason, you have every right to be a ball bag. But at
Right.
the same time, though, you need to realize what your sister is actually sacrificing here. And what she's
Absolutely.
doing here, she's kidnapping somebody to help you. And
Right.
here you are being rude to your sister for the sacrifices that she has made. So that's
Absolutely.
something that I really found really fascinating on how she brings him down a notch. But
Yeah.
also, too, you also wonder, too, what is life like after this disease happens? Because
Right.
even Matthew, well, not Matthew, but even Peter goes, so what am I going to be, 15 years old for the rest of my life? All
Right.
my friends thinks I'm dead. Even if you do the aging factor, I'm going to be old
Right.
and I'm going to be a vampire. What we
Right.
do? What a life.
Yeah,
So basically,
exactly. Exactly. And so as we get through all of that, and we'll speak about we'll get past Isaiah's birthday actually went off well. I love the fact that they were able to go to the carnival or the fair, and the fact that Ellie was able to be a kid. You know what I mean? It was like the best day of her life, that she's had in a long time, because remember, her dad's just altering things that he used to do. And remember, she just wants her dad happy as well. She wants that old dad back. And he's too focused on trying to cure her and going out and feed her. So them having this outing with Naomi and Isaiah, all four of them together, was a big deal. It was really beautiful. I
there's a
love the
chance of
scene.
normalcy.
It was absolutely normal for two kids that are 12 years old to have, which she hasn't had. So I love the scene at the fair. I love when obviously what's the toy at the fair where you hit the hammer and
Oh,
it
the little
angel.
hammer with the bell. Yeah,
Right, and
the
Mark
bell and
goes up,
hammer.
the bell hammer, and Mark goes up to do it, and obviously couldn't do it. And I love how Isaiah and Ellie kind of snuck around, and you give Elliot because you know that she's going to kill it. And I love when the guy just looks like, at first he's like, yeah, yeah, sweetheart, come on up here, give this little girl a go. And obviously she's got superhuman strength, so she kills it. And I thought that was really funny. The conversation of them on the Ferris wheel. What did you think about that when they're talking about birthdays and her, the realization that he's going to get older and leave?
Right. And he made that. He goes, look, if there was one wish that I could make, and I made that, um, Frenchie, that's very on the nose. Well, what can you do? But you see, though, I like that whole entire wish that he made. He's like, if there was one wish that I could make, it was to be like you, to be a
Right,
vampire. And she's like,
right,
no, you do not want this.
right,
You do not want this. He goes, yes, I do. No, you do not want this.
right,
You think you do. You think you want to do this. You
right,
don't know the implications that it has with this. For instance, you have to feed on blood, other people for food and
right.
everything else. And that's also the issue that Matthew also, not Matthew, but Peter also has. Burning in the
Yes,
sun and feeding on somebody. If it wasn't for those two things, he would be loving being a vampire.
right,
But because of
absolutely.
those things, but Ellie's telling him, look, for every consequence is a reaction and a consequence behind that reaction. You do
Right,
not want to wish this unless you actually knew what you were getting yourself into.
absolutely.
And I think that took him down an octave, was like, okay, well, if I can't have you forever, I'll just enjoy my time that I have with you
Right.
as well.
Right, because she understands that, he is going to age and get older, and she's going to always be 12 years old. So at some point, she's old enough to know that, he's saying that now, but he's gonna grow up. He's gonna move on. He's gonna find someone else, and so she lets it go and says, okay, I believe you. So that was a great day. They had a great time. Also, a funny part when Naomi and Mark are sitting on the bench, and he's like, listen to that. You hear the ocean, and then you hear the guy from the background say whatever it is that he said. It was really funny and kind of brings them back to, the reality that we're sitting on the bench in the middle of the frickin' looking at the ocean, and, crazy people are walking around, whatever.
Well, also too, it gives him a chance to actually connect with her, but not only
Oh, yeah.
connect with her, but it also gives him a chance to just enjoy the quietness that's
Right.
within his own head, though, too. Because there's a lot going on here. Like, for
Yeah.
instance, And I just wanted to speak on this one part, though,
Mhm.
on one of the other episodes where you basically have Zeke who winds up giving him the position of that chef, head chef again, giving him
Yes,
his stardom again, and
right,
him trying to process that, and then having his daughter who's a vampire fighting that part
right.
and doing that at the same time. Yeah, that was
Yeah, it
very
was.
funny from New
It
York.
was, baby. It was. Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. Because we find out that uh, Mark is an upcoming chef, a well-known chef. He had already made it into the paper. So this was he was somebody. And remember, he opened up the restaurant with Zeke, but he ended up leaving because obviously things happened to Ellie. And we find out at the end of episode 6 that this had been going on for, or maybe it was 7, but 10 years, 8 months, and whatnot. So we realized that Ellie's about 22 years old. She's about 21, 22 years old. That's how long they've been dealing with that. And we'll start at the where they're looking at the stars, stargazing. And
Mm.
it's Peter and it's Ellie. And we're going back in time because now they're getting ready to tell us this is how this went down. Okay. And we're about to see how Ellie got infected. Now, the guy that comes up to them and is showing them the stars with the clipboard, isn't he the guy that was in the tree, or was that Peter in the tree?
I want to say that was Peter in the tree.
Okay,
It
because
makes
I,
more
I missed that a
sense.
little bit because when that guy walked off, and after he got done talking to them, remember he walked off into the bushes. He throws the paper down, the clipboard down, and you see his eyes glow. So okay, he's on the drugs or whatever. So I wasn't sure, was that Peter up in the tree, or was that guy in the tree that attacked Ellie?
I want to say it was Peter in the tree because it actually
Okay,
makes more sense. Although
right.
it could be a little
But with the
misdirection though
guy, but
too.
who's that? With the guy as well, like who is he? You know?
That right. Nonetheless, it's very. I wouldn't be surprised though if there's a little misdirection going on over here
Right. Okay.
because of the fact that they want us to think that it's Peter
Right.
because of it's setting it up for that. Because we'll get to that in a few minutes because all that is in this
Oh
episode
my
too.
gosh. Right.
But even though I mentioned it briefly, but
Yeah.
it could be a little misdirection to where we're thinking it's Peter, but it's not really Peter. Maybe this
Right.
is actually how Peter turned into a vampire as well. Maybe this guy also got him.
That's what I'm thinking. The way I took, because I missed that part. I just saw the guy in a tree. But anyway, so I'm thinking that that's how they both got bit. That's where I'm thinking that it was that guy that was talking to them and then walked away, and you realize, okay, his eyes is glowing. Oh my gosh. Anyways, though, guys, we do see Ellie get attacked. We see the person jump out of the tree. Ellie looks up, and there you have it. So you have Zeke, and you have well, that starts off with Ellie in the house, and she has blood like draining from her eyes, from her ears. It's just gory, and you're wondering what the hell's going on. And when Zeke says, "Ellie, you're welcomed here," at that point, they had been dealing with her being bit that whole time.
Right. Because remember this, though, too. She was also in the hospital for X number of days. They
Right,
didn't know what was going on
absolutely,
with her. They didn't know
very
what to
true.
feed her.
Right,
Up until she showed her teeth, that's when Zeke realized,
right,
oh, we're
that's right,
dealing with a vampire here.
right,
You need to back away from her. She
right.
needs blood. Then whenever you have the wife stealing the cold blood, they're like
Yeah,
she winds up spitting it out in the home and
right.
realizing, oh, she can't have cold blood. She needs warm blood. So
Yes,
that's the main issue.
yes.
But okay, so the thing that I found fascinating with this is what, and I questioned this twice because they brought the home up twice, where she had to be invited into her home not once but twice.
Right, right.
And I'm thinking to myself, wait, so I guess the fact that it's abandoned when we see it in one of the episodes, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So I'm thinking to myself, okay, so why is she being invited back into a house that she used to live in?
yeah.
And
But okay,
that's what I find fascinating with that. And then she gets invited back into her in the flashback. She's invited again back into
right,
her own house when
right,
they're living there. So I'm like, okay, this is definitely interesting
right.
because and then also too, you also get to see the implications though too, because a vampire swallowing real food. So that was something I
Oh,
always
right,
wondered what would happen.
right,
Not being invited in, that was something I was always wondering about. So they
right,
dived into those two things. Even in the movie, they did that too with inviting, not being invited in, and then
right,
inviting that person in. But they never touched on the food aspect of it.
right,
So that was something I've always been wondering about.
right.
But what did you find fascinating about being invited in on those times?
Um, the time where she's bleeding and doing all that, and he says, "Ellie, you're welcome here." I was thinking, okay, is that Zeke's house that she was invited in? Because, like you, why would she be invited into her own house that she already lives at? So I was thinking, okay, maybe it's Zeke's house, but yeah, if it is her house, why does she need to be invited in if she already lives there? Or maybe it's because it's not her, it's a vampire now. So, because
Because
it's
she would
not
be
her,
technically dead, so
you
therefore
know,
she. Right.
exactly. So she's not Ellie anymore, because what we saw, what happens when she's not Ellie, she turns into that vampire, that monster. So maybe that's it. It's not her. So you have to invite her in because she's a vampire. It's not her.
Right.
That's what
So
I
that
got from it. That's what my thinking is about. It is about it. That's the way I'm thinking. Sorry, guys. Anyways, but I love this episode because I've been waiting for this episode to come up because
me
I
too.
wanted to see how it happened, how her mom died, what they did.
Well,
Go ahead.
okay. So here's the thing. My mind going through this episode because this is an origin story setting it up. I'm like, okay, so what's the deal with the mom? Because now we
Right.
know that part, right? So
Okay.
I'm thinking to myself, okay, so what's the deal with the mom, right? So does she leave him because of the fact that she's tired of giving blood,
Right.
or getting tired of the fact that she's now having to live with a child that's undead? Is
Right.
she just fed up with everything? What's the deal with her?
Right.
And then we're gonna get into where he draws
Yeah.
the line
Yes.
between. Yeah, we'll
Yeah.
get into that. But it made me question. Okay, so where was the decision to leave, or if there was a decision to leave?
Right.
So that was my question, and then I'm eating. I mean this. I'm actually dialed into this episode, questioning
Yes.
every single thing because it's
Right.
such a great episode. This
I
is hands down my
love it.
favorite episode in
Absolutely.
this season.
Absolutely. Baby said that too, that it's her favorite episode as well. This is my favorite episode. I've watched this episode twice today. I really enjoyed it because, like I said, I've been waiting for this. And so, what we get to see is how it all went down. Okay. So, after Ellie's attack, you see Zeke and Mark trying to figure out, okay, does a person live close to us? Okay, how far do they live, and then they find that tunnel in the alleyway next to their house. I'm sorry, it's the underground, the sewer, or
Yeah,
the
the
the or the
sewer.
rain. Okay, the sewer. They go down there. There's nothing there, but that is a good find. Okay, they didn't find anything though. So weeks go by. It looks like this is weeks going by, months going by, and you see them, like you said, the mom getting blood. I think she was a nurse or something, so she's getting blood. Zeke is giving blood. They're all giving blood, and until they can't give anymore. Like Zeke, his last bag he gave her was barely nothing. So at this point, she knows Ellie's probably got about 3 months to live. I mean, they don't know what else to do until we find out that Mark has been contemplating going out there and killing. And his
Right.
way of doing it was John tell him what he thought would be best.
Okay, so this is the most surprising thing to me. Okay,
Okay.
because Zeke is like, wait, you're talking about killing a real life human being.
Right.
WTF? What's wrong with you
Right.
for thinking that? And then he winds up tattling on him to his wife, and he
Right.
goes, and Mark's just looking at him like, bro, I thought we were brothers. We are, but when it comes down to you killing a real life human being, taking their life,
Right.
there's that split in between killing someone and not killing someone and trying to get your daughter to survive.
Right.
she goes, look, you need to kill your daughter. And then it's like this talk of, I can't do that. I love my daughter too much.
Right.
And then there's also this other thing that winds up happening too. I'm sorry, I'm just geeked out over this.
No, go ahead,
Like,
man.
okay, so another thing that winds up happening is this, okay? So then his wife winds up telling Zeke, look, you're not my husband. Ellie's not your daughter. And then Mark comes around and goes, and she's not your wife. So you can't tell her what we can and cannot do.
Right.
So then they show him the door. He leaves.
Right.
Then his wife sits him down. He goes, Mark, sit down for a minute.
Oh,
so tell me how you're going to do this. I'm like, what? Wait.
I know, right? Did I hear her right?
I'm like, wait a minute here. Time out. And he goes, well, I was thinking about doing this, this, and this. She's like, look, if you're going to kill somebody, you have to do it right. And she winds up telling him exactly how to do it.
Yeah.
And hanging them up upside down,
yep.
on their throat.
Yep.
And I'm like, okay, so that's where that comes in at, because Mark didn't think of it as himself. Yeah. He's like, because Guy's logical thinking is, okay, well, I'm just going to go on ahead and cut their wrist or something, and I'll get blood.
Yeah,
he's like,
put him
no.
in a bathtub, and that was his idea. I'll just put him in a bathtub and cut him up, basically, or slit him. So it was awesome to see that this was her. This was the wife's. That's why he was doing that, because he learned it from her, and then he decides that he's been following this pedophile around, and that he found was in his area. So he'd been following him around for weeks, knowing his schedule and all that. And wow, the first kill, of course, he's scared, it's sloppy, it's horrible. He and the guy that he's going to kill end up looking at each other, and they're just kind of staring at each other until Mark's like, oh shit. And he kills him. But what was so messed up about that, John? Tell them what was so fucked up about that situation.
So you're thinking that he's going to get away with this and everything, right? So what winds up happening is he winds up getting into a car accident because he's in a rush to get back home, because he thinks his daughter's going to die. Right. And so he's panicking the whole time. He's like, and he's telling this guy, he goes, look, I'm sorry I've been into you. Look, I'll exchange insurances, but I have to get back to my daughter. My daughter is sick. Right. And the woman's like, well, I saw you crash into him and everything is clearly right there. I'm going to call the cops. No, do not call the cops. I'll just give you my insurance and my license and my information, and I'll just go my way. He goes, well, why are you doing a hit and run? He goes, what do you mean, why am I doing a hit and run? I'm not doing a hit and run. I said, I'm giving you my insurance. I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. And he's not in his right mind or anything, because he has a jug of, basically a carton of milk and a milk jug of blood. Right. I would like to actually know how he talked his way out of it with the police officer there, because they don't show it.
Yeah, they don't. You're right. They do not show that at all.
They cut that and then go straight into the fact that, hey, honey, I'm home with the blood. So,
but it's spoiled.
Right.
It's spoiled because remember, he has like 20 some, I think it's like 26 or 36 minutes he has before the blood goes. Yeah, before it spoils. So he goes through all that, guys. Goes into the house, and she's excited because he did it, and he's crying because he didn't do it, and she's like, okay, well maybe the blood's still good. So she takes the jug, and then she comes back and says, you're right. And at that point he's like, I'll go back out there. I'm gonna go and find someone else. And she's like, just settle down, sit down, like we're not gonna do that. And then I'm going to let John take this, because here's where we're at, guys.
Okay, so this is what winds up happening, because I'm thinking to myself, okay, so what's going to happen? Did she wind up biting into the wife? Did Ellie wind up killing her own mom? That was my other thing, was like, did she kill her own mother? And now it's just Ellie and him together, Mark together. And come to find out, she winds up moving. Basically, Mark's wife winds up moving the furniture up to the door to where Mark can get in.
Right.
And then she winds up slitting her own wrist to save her own daughter.
Right.
And the music that they played for this is so. I mean, the music in itself tells the story exactly how it goes down, and the pain and the suffering of losing your own life to save. She sacrificed her own self to save her child.
Absolutely.
And that was is the beautiful writing within this and poetry from this
Right.
scene. And
Right.
it was just to save your own daughter. And then, let's also rewind back a little bit too, because remember when Mark is going into the different sewers and stuff like that? He winds up going over to this mansion, and he's going to different places. Oh, my son
Right.
passed away. He goes, my son passed away. That was another place he stops at. Then he stops at another
Right.
place. And finally you get to the mansion
Right.
and he knocks on the door. I'm like, oh my God.
Yes.
Did
Guys, right? Yes.
I'm like, did Peter do something to the daughter? Because Peter is actually the only living vampire kind of thing.
Right.
And I'm like, now that's whenever I started going into my deep thinking of like, okay, so now you have two people that are in a mess up situation. We have Mark and Ellie, who's in a mess up situation because Mark winds up giving Ellie the blood from Isaiah's father.
Right.
Then you also have a mess up situation with Peter, who wound up
Right.
giving birth, basically birthing the vampire, making Ellie the vampire. So
Right.
you have two mess up situations going off at the same time. But like Rossie and I said, I think that's a misdirection when it comes down to that.
Absolutely. I think so too, because when what John's bringing up, guys, is when before all this happened with Ellie and the mom, he's going around to find out, because remember he's looking for who was close enough to have hurt Ellie, okay? He ends up going to the mansion where Claire, and it was when her father was alive. So this scene, what I got from that scene is that's when the father called Claire and said, Peter's dead. Peter died, because there's no other reason for Claire to be there that soon. So I'm thinking that was during that time, because remember, this is years before. Okay, remember, Ellie got bit 10 years and 8 months before Isaiah's birthday. Okay, around. So that was the time that I believe that Claire came home because her dad told her that Peter was dead, because remember, Peter, the drug didn't work. So, Mark shows up there.
Right. And technically, they didn't lie to him. Peter is dead, but they just didn't
Yeah,
tell him that he
right.
was undead.
Right.
But,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
so Mark goes on his way.
Yeah.
There's also another. I'm sorry, Rossi.
No,
There's
go
one
ahead,
other little
sweetheart.
detail though.
Go ahead.
Remember when he's supposed to be like this top notch chef for this 5-star restaurant, and you see a
Right.
picture over there?
Yes.
He's off getting ready to kill somebody. It's
Yeah.
like this is the life that I once had
Right.
before
Right.
the life I had.
Right.
That before the life I have now.
Right.
And now that life is gone. This is my
Yep.
life now,
Yep.
kind of situation. And that's
Yep.
exactly what they were trying to tell.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
but knowing the fact that the mother sacrificed herself for her daughter, that
Yeah.
touched me to know
And
that.
baby, I cried too during that when Mark walks in, sees Ellie on the bed, blood, mom's just dead because she slit her wrist to feed Ellie. Yeah, that scene, it was so sad, because you wonder throughout this whole series, where is mom? They have flashbacks about mom, but they never said what happened to her, until this scene and this episode. And it was just like, what you do for your kid, would you do that for your family member? And remember, Mark had made a promise to his wife before he even knew she was going to do this, that they will never stop until they find a cure for Ellie. So once mom died, that's when he and Ellie went on the run. And remember, when they put Zeke out, that was the reason why when they showed back up in New York, that they hadn't seen Zeke for all those years, because this was the falling out that they had. Zeke just didn't feel like it was right, and Ellie, mom and dad were not going to let her die. So amazing episode. You guys can catch Let the Right One In Sunday nights at 10 p.m. Eastern Time on Showtime, wherever you stream Showtime. It's really good, guys. We have, what, 3 more episodes to go.
Right.
So it's, I just can't wait to see episode 8. And I stopped myself. I didn't go any further. I just stopped,
It's hard.
because it is so hard. You want to grind it out.
Because we're so used to in a binge watching culture to binge everything.
Right.
But here's what now I got a lot of flack for this before. But I said this before. I said I'd rather watch week to week now than to
Yeah,
binge everything because of the fact that it gives you a reason to speculate. Not only does it give you a reason to speculate and use your own imagination, it's still
right.
in the conversation with
Absolutely.
people within the week.
Right.
I love Stranger Things, but
Right.
after some, get this, once you binge everything, you forget what you watched. Not only do you
Yes.
not forget what you watched, but it's not in the conversation anymore as if
Right.
it was a week to week basis.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
that's what Netflix needs to realize is you don't need to binge anything. The binging stuff worked for what it worked, but now
Right.
because I feel like binging stuff is like too much of a stomach overload. Like I'm at a buffet and I'm just
Okay.
overloading everything in my mouth.
Yeah.
At least with week to week episodes, I can slowly digest the episode
Right.
and just let it sink in a little bit, let it marinate a little bit, and then go
Right.
on ahead and watch the next episode the following week and have that week to week discussion with friends. And
Right.
the water coolers, we always talk in a virtual water
Oh,
cooler kind of scenario.
absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
that's what it leaves to
Right.
is a water cooler type situation where you can talk to your coworkers or your friends about this.
Right.
And that's what I love about week to week.
Yeah, it was really hard to not go into the next episode, but I wanted just for the reasons that you stated, I wanted to make sure that I'm not too far ahead, that I'm able to just stay with what's going on, and then we all wait until next week and then talk about it. So we are going to double up, guys. John, I remember we were having this conversation earlier about I was going to do episodes 8, 9, and 10. I figured that let's not do that. Let's just do 8 and
Yeah,
9 because Clint had brought up to me the hours that
that's
you're
too
going to
much.
spend. It's just too much. And plus,
Because
just to grind all three of those and cram those in. So we'll go ahead and do 8 and 9, and then we'll do 10 separately. So, guys, that's how we're going to do that. I do have some guests coming on the show next week. I have another actor. His name is Jay. Oh gosh, I hate it. Stuckavel. Jay, I promise I'll get it right. Okay, but he's great. He's funny. He had a great movie that I had the pleasure to see a few months ago. So he's going to come on the show on Thursday of next week. And then I'm having Joanne, Missy Joe, who is my baby sister. She also loves movies, and we love John Hughes movies. So next week, we're going to review on Wednesday, rewatch John Hughes, Just One of the Guys. And if you haven't seen it, please go and see it. You can stream it anywhere. These were mid to late 80s movies, and they were absolutely great. So once a month, Joanne's going to come sit with me, and we're going to go over another John Hughes film. Okay. And then on the 18th, I'm going to have an actress who is very well known in Sacramento. Her name is Bunny Stewart, and I will be interviewing her, and I can't wait for you guys to meet her. And also, I have a director that will be on in February, and I don't want to say his name. I don't want to spoil this surprise, but he's great as well. He's going to be on, and then we're going to have some more. John and I are going to do what is it, John?
yeah,
The video. We love video games here as well. John, tell them what we're going to do.
okay, so I think we said what a week after that.
Yeah, a week after next or so, guys. Yes.
Yeah, after Rossie has her guest on and everything.
Right.
So we love video games. We love
Yes.
Resident Evil. We love zombies.
Yes.
So guess what? We're going to be doing a Last of Us after show.
Absolutely. Yes.
So the first episode, of course, I'm going to have in the front row. She's actually from Australia. She's a big
Awesome.
gamer, but she said that she never she never played the video games of The
Oh,
Last of
really?
Us.
Oh,
No,
wow.
because she's an Xbox player.
Okay.
But here's the thing, though. I like the fact that she hasn't played a single video game of The Last of Us or anything,
Okay.
because it gives me a chance to actually dive into how she perceives something as a video game for
Right.
the very first episode and seeing if she would actually stick with it or she won't stick with it. And
Right.
then I'll have Rossie on. She'll do a recap of the first episode and also do the second episode
Right.
with me. And then from there on, it's just going to be Rossie and I doing The Last of Us. And
Absolutely.
I think
I
it's
can't
just
wait.
much easier that way.
I can't
Um,
wait. I love the game. I played the game more than once, played the DLC. Yeah, I'm all forward. And then what else was there? The menu.
Menu. We're going to be
Yes.
doing, and a matter of fact, I have a little thing too. I actually want to. I'm bringing on a special guest as well,
Okay. Okay.
and it's going to be my friend Josh. He has the Midnight Cinemas podcast and YouTube channel, and he's a good friend of the channel. And him and we're going to do bits for this. Rossie and I are going to do bits.
Okay.
Josh is going to do bits for this.
Right.
It's just going to be one big, huge, fun time doing
Absolutely.
it. So stay tuned for some bit shorts for that, for the menu, because I have loads of ideas.
Awesome. John always does. John always does. Always.
Right.
Let's see. Anything coming up, John, you want to talk about next week?
Tomorrow, yeah, Alex and I are going to be doing a show tomorrow night at 9 o'clock Pacific time. And that's, 9 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time, 7 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Right. And what we're going to be doing is Mortal Kombat, the 1994 Mortal Kombat movie. Alex and I have been wanting to do this for a while, and now it's just, we figured, you know what, it's the best time to do it. So we're going to get ready to see Johnny Cage punch Goro in the nuts. So that's always going to be fun. So that's going to be for that episode. I don't think I have anything for Friday. I don't think anything scheduled. But if you guys want to, I do have an 80 section in the playlist area, and I do have John Hughes movies. I have stuff that I reviewed with Beth from Made for a Movie TV podcast in there, so check that out. Also, too, that's also going to be in that playlist when Rossie goes on ahead and does her review, and it's also going to be in the Rossie Talks About playlist too.
Absolutely.
I'm trying to think if there was like anything else that I wanted to mention as far as shows go, but I don't think there is.
Yeah, we're good. We're good. So John will be joining me for the last 3 episodes of Let the Right One In. We're just gonna ride that out together, and then after that, you guys will figure out what we want to do after John and I do The Last of Us, and we'll figure out what's next for Rossie Talks.
Exactly. There's one more thing that I wanted to mention too. On Fridays, we're going to be doing movie news. So I actually have a movie news show that I'm in the works with. I'm going to have independent writer Christopher Benori joining me with that. Josh from the Midnight Cinema, and probably another guest. And we're going to be doing some movie news. And basically what we're going to do is we're going to talk about all the geeky movie news that came out during the whole entire week. And we'll go into the movie, basically where we find a movie news segment, stories and stuff like that. We'll give you context in that and what we think behind the context of it. So it's going to be a very good, interesting thing that we're going to be doing. We actually did 2 of them already, so go and check that out. But that's it.
All right, guys. So that's it. Thank you so much for joining John and I. We look forward to, I look forward to seeing you guys next week. John looks forward to seeing you tomorrow with he and Alex as they do Mortal Kombat. And we appreciate you giving us your time. Thank you for allowing us to be a few minutes late. Things go on in life, guys. You know how it is with lives. Love you so much. And I'll see you in a week. John, we'll see you guys tomorrow. Thank you, guys.
Yep. See you guys tomorrow. Bye.